Hello friends, welcome to our channel WaveTutorials and you are watching AngularJS full tutorial session. And also I request you to, if you have still not subscribed to our channel, then please subscribe to it and don't forget to click on that notification bell icon so that you will get the notification whenever we upload a new video on this channel. Also, if you found the content of our video is valuable, then please like the video, and in case of any query you can write a comment in comment box. So let's start with today's session. In this session we will cover what are components in Angular application and how we can add them in a project. So let's start it with components. Everything in Angular is component. Components are the basic UI building block of an Angular application. An Angular application is a collection of components which is responsible for one or part of a view. A component in Angular is a TypeScript class which contains HTML template, decorator and class. So decorator adds the metadata to the class, making it an Angular component. An HTML template defines the user interface which contains HTML, directives and data binding. Class contains the code that required for HTML template. An Angular component are a subset of directive and is always associated with a template. A component must belong to an ng module in order for it to be available to another component or application. In addition to these options, for configuring a directive, you can control a component runtime behavior by implementing lifecycle hooks. So we will discuss about lifecycle hook of a component in detail in our coming videos. Angular architecture allows us to work with smaller and maintainable piece of code in the form of components which are also reusable and can be used in different places. So you can add as many of components in your application depending upon your requirement or how you would like to maintain your project. To add a component in Angular application, we can add it manually or by Angular CLI command. So the command using Angular CLI is ng c component name. So ng stands for Angular, g for generate and c for component. So this is a short form to generate a component. You can also use its full form like ng generate component and then name of the component. So there is another option like dry run. So before adding a component, you can check which files are going to create and what is their location. So using this option --dry run, you can check which files are going to generate. So when you execute this command, this will create 4 files. One is TypeScript file, another one is HTML, CSS, and one is spec.ts file which is used for testing purpose. So let's open Visual Studio Code and see what is component and how we can generate new components. So when we create a new application, we will get a default component as a root component with AngularJS application. So this is the default root component which we get whenever we create a new project. So this component has contained 4 files. One is CSS, HTML, TS and spec.ts. So we already discussed about all of them in detail. CSS file is used for style, HTML is for view and writing our HTML code, TS file is as a source code file where you can write your source code or you can connect your code with the services, and fourth one is a spec file where you can write all of your test cases. So let's open the source code file. So here you can see that we have imported a component from Angular core library, so which is actually a decorator. So what is decorator? We will discuss about this in our later video. So the option available in this decorator is selector, template URL and style URLs. So instead of these 3 default options available here, we have lots of another options available with this decorator like template, animation, interpolation, module ID, view provider, etc. So we'll discuss about them in later videos. So for now, let's discuss about these 3 ones. So first one is selector. So selector is the name of this component which we can use in other component or in another file. So for now, app component, which is the default root component of this application, you can see here in app.module.ts, app component is defined as a bootstrap root component of this application. So this component is by default used here in index.html file. So whenever we execute our application in browser, the index.html page load and it automatically load the component whose selector is app-root. So this component is automatically loaded to the browser. So first of all, let's execute a command ngserve and open this component in browser. So you can see that our project is compiled successfully and the application is seen here at localhost port 4200. So let's adjust the Visual Studio Code a little bit so that we can see the Visual Studio Code and browser at the same time. So the next one is template URL, where you can see that the view which is connected with this app component is app.component.html file, which is created with the component. So let's open it and make few changes here. So let's remove the unused code. Let's remove this command. Also, let's remove this div also. This comments and save it. So you can see that our view has been updated. So how this title variable work with HTML? So let me show you. Let's open this HTML and replace this Angular tutorial with title. So I'm using here the interpolation. So what is interpolation? We will discuss about this in our later video. So you can see here that welcome to right here title using interpolation, and it's shown here welcome to ng app. The ng app comes from here. So if I change its text, you can see it's reflecting the same time in the browser. You can also define a constructor for this component, like using this keyword constructor. So here we have defined a constructor here. So how constructor work, let me show you. So let's change the value of title variable, like this dot title equal to Angular application and remove its default text and set it to null. So you can see that in constructor you can define your variables, your functions which you require to execute whenever this component is instantiated. So let's create a new component using Angular CLI commands. First let me terminate this batch by pressing Ctrl C. So to generate a new component, you have to type a command ng, which stands for Angular generate component and then name of the component. So you can also use the short form for this command, like you can use ng, g for generate, c for component, and then name of the component. So first of all, we will create a test component and execute enter. So as you can see that we have successfully created a component with the name of test as a test component, so which further contain 4 files: test.c, test.component.css, html, ts, and spec.ts file. So this component is automatically added to the default module, which is app module.ts. You can see here that it's already imported here, and in declaration part it's already added here. So if you are going to do it manually, then you have to create all these things manually. You have to create a folder and then create all these files and then manually import them here in app module. So you can do it either manually or using command. So the best way is to do it using command, because this automatically add its dependencies wherever it's required. So let's open our app.component file and try to display this test component here. So for this you need to copy and type the selector of this test component. So here in test.component.ts we have its selector as app-test. You can also rename its name as per your requirement. So let's type it here. So first of all, let's create a div and add a class here, content, because the test is going to shown as a content on this page, because the CSS library is already attached with this app.component HTML page. So let's app-test. Let's save it and execute ngserve command. So ngserve is successfully compiled and you can see test work display here. So let's open HTML of test component and you can make any changes here, like so this is also called as nested component. You can call a component within another component. So you can use the same component in any other component as well. So by this you can make it a reusable component. So let me show you the other options as well for creating a component. For now, the command which we used here is created these 4 files by default. So let's see other commands as well. So let me terminate the window again. Let's clear the screen and maximize this Visual Studio Code. Let me close all the files and let's type the command ng generate component. Let's say it's x, y, z, and then let's try dry run option. So what dry run option will do, so this option will not actually create a component, but it will show you what files are going to be created and where it's going to be created. So before creating any component, you can use this dry run command to see which files are going to be created. So let's press enter. You can see here that the generate command is going to create 4 files. One is HTML, spec.ts, ts, css, and the app.module.ts file is going to update. So you can see here the note that the dry run flag means no changes were made. So that means that these changes are not actually made. So let's say I don't want to create this file, spec.ts file, with my component, because I'm not going to write test cases for now. So how we can remove this while creating components? So let me show you. Let's type command. You can also use -d as a short form for dry run, and then you can type skip test So when I execute enter, you can see that instead of creating 4 files, it's created only 3 files using the dry run command. So in the same way, if you are going to create inline style, so you can write the command inline style, and you can see that we have created only 2 files. So let's create it the same command without dry run, and let's check the component. So let's rename it with inline style. It will generate a component with a name within inline style. Let's press enter. Here you can see that the component is generated and it has only 2 files here. One is HTML and another one is TS, because we already skip that test to be created, and also we allow it to use inline style. So here the new CSS file is not generated, and you can write your own CSS style if required for this specific component only. So you can write it here. So the same way you can use inline style and inline template. So let's rename the component name to with inline style and template. So let's press enter. Now you can see that here we have created only single file because we allowed it for inline template. So if I open it, the components, so you can see here you can create your inline template. So here one thing is, if you are going to write more than 1, 2 or 3 lines, you need to use this symbol, which is backquote or punctuation mark. So let me show you one thing here, that if we are going to replace it with single quote, then it will give us an error. So if I make all the HTML in single line, that error will go. That means that you can write a single line if you are using this single quote, but if you are going to use it like this just to format the text, you need to use punctuation mark like this way. So you can see that symbol with the tilde sign above tab button in your keyboard. You can also see that when we create components, these components are automatically added in app module here. So we have covered in this session is what are the components and how we can add them in Angular application with multiple options. So if you have any query, you can write a comment in a comment box, or you can also write to me at wavetutorials@outlook.com. My name is Naveen. Thank you for watching this tutorial.